It is Thursday. It's time for another episode of the Late Night Vision Show, episode 234. We're about to bring it right to you, and we are talking about a once-a-year topic. And to help me introduce the show, to bring it in, hope you had a great weekend last weekend, Jason. Bringing in the owner of Outdoor Legacy, Jason Robertson. What's going on? What do we got going on this week?
Man, there's a lot going on. We've hit the busy season. I mean, we are rolling into November, and I tell you what, I was thinking about it this weekend, and it's hard to believe that Thanksgiving is just a few weeks away. And I was you know what? I mean, it's literally almost to 2023, and it is just strange to me how fast time flies. It feels like we were just in November, December, but we are in the busy season, guys. This is the obvious time for night hunting. I mean, it's a time for all kinds of hunting. Obviously, deer season is really getting into swing in most states, and but night hunting is too. A lot of guys up north start coyote hunting again right now. Guys down south start hog hunting because the nights are getting cool, and it's nice to get out there, and they got corn feeders running for deer and what have you, so they got a lot of hogs. So it's that time, and it's my favorite time of year. I'm not gonna lie, it's fun.
Oh yeah, been out at the fire. I've been out at the fire pit making fires, sitting by there, and I feel, I told my wife that fire pits are entertainment for old men, because we just sit out there. And yesterday I was out there Sunday afternoon and had a little fire going, burning some old lumber that I've been trying to get rid of, and fell asleep in my chair by myself out there by the fire pit. My kids, I walked in, I was like, man, nobody loves me. My kids aren't out here with me. My wife's doing stuff inside. But yeah, it is the best time of year. And it is also, in the years past, I've talked about the fact that I lose a lot of property access this time of year because it's being leased to deer hunters. In the past, I was a lot more aggravated about it the last couple of years since I've gotten involved and shot some good deer on some other property. I haven't been as aggravated, but I have gotten some calls to come and shoot some hogs off some feeders, which is kind of cool, to get over there and kind of clear them out for them real quick before they start getting in the stands. But we're going to be talking about the best night vision option. Well, really the advantages as it pertains to deer hunting with night vision and thermal. Throw in some optic discussions in there, some things that are new out this year that maybe weren't out during last deer season, maybe some stuff that was out last deer season that was a good option that's going to be a good option again this year. But first of all, before we get into that, I want to thank the fine folks at Pulsar for inviting us out. Us and several other dealers. I don't want people to think it was just us, but we went out to their Mansfield, Texas office and got a chance to meet the guys from Lithuania, Ludus. I know who Jason listens to the show quite regularly, and they invited us out and got a chance to meet them. It's always good to see them, and we see them at SHOT Show once a year, but to see them in a different environment was great, and we got to break bread together and hang out. It was a fun thing.
Break bread together. I was just sitting here.
It seems very.
That was very. That
seemed formal.
Wow, that was formal. That was not a normal Southern term. I don't know.
Break bread. Yeah, exactly.
No, we did. We had a good time out there. I tell you what, Pulsar rolled out the red carpet for us. Like Hans said, there was several dealers. We had a good time chatting with other guys in the industry, some ladies as well. It was a very good trip. I'm gonna tell you something about Pulsar USA. All right. Now these guys don't skimp on anything. So we were going to be checking out some optics and comparing some stuff. And it's a lot of the stuff that some of the stuff we've talked about on here, the new Pulsar Axions for this year, the new Thermions, the XQ models that are getting rolled out right now. Those will actually be in the warehouse by the time this show airs on Thursday. And so some of those items, we're just taking a look at side by side, doing some testing and stuff. And we were up on this really, really beautiful second story balcony on their facility. It's connected to their warehouse and some meeting areas, and it's like awesome
an
place.
Observation deck. It's kind of what
it was beautiful. Yeah. It was really, really nice.
It overlooks like a big, like a wooded wide
yeah.
open kind of place in the back where it's all woods and
Oh yeah, it
no
was
buildings or nothing
really,
like that.
really nice. And so they knew that we were going to need some kind of hot object to view down there at 125 to 150 yards.
Well,
and so
before you mention that, they Jeff Murray, who's the VP of Sightmark and Pulsar USA as far as sales, in the meeting he said, "Hey, we're going to go check out some optics, and we're going to look at this at some live animals." And I'm like, man, he is cocky, thinking that something's just going to walk out whenever we get out there to go look at these scopes. And in the back of my mind, I was like, what has he got planned? But I was like, gosh, that was pretty cocky. We're going to go out and look at some animals. I was like, there must be something back there that we don't know about.
Exactly.
Because it's just a field,
Well, I thought they were going to take sales reps down there. I thought they were going to make some go reps stand down there. That was my initial thought. They're going to make those guys stand down there. But you know what? We're up there eating supper and having barbecue, and next thing I know, this guy pulls up with a cattle trailer, and I'm thinking, are they going to put some cows out here? That's going to be kind of strange. No, sir. No, sir. No cows. Only the best for us. They brought out miniature horses.
Yes.
And when I say miniature, I mean like mini. I'm talking like the little 2.5 foot tall.
I mean, it could have been a deer, as far as how tall they were.
An East Texas
it was
deer.
great.
Yeah.
It was.
I
It was
think there's
the
some
best.
goats maybe too, but they were the horses are what got my.
Hey, it was the best. I mean, they did what they had to do to get it done, so we could kind of look at this at different ranges. But I want to thank them anyway. This is the time of year, folks, where we are getting into the end of the year, gearing up for SHOT Show. We have a lot of discussions with manufacturers. As you know, Jason, leading up to SHOT Show last year, and when we released our SHOT Show episodes the week of, we had sit-down shows with basically every manufacturer to talk about new optics. So it's getting that time of year, and it's good to do that. But today we are talking about night vision optics, thermal optics for deer hunters. We're going to be talking about the advantages of both. And, there's a lot of people, Jason, that call in that aren't hog hunters, that aren't coyote hunters. They are dedicated deer hunters. And more often than not these days, most of one of these serious deer hunters is walking into the stand with some type of night vision or thermal device, more now than ever. And I can definitely see why and understand why.
No, I tell you, I was sitting here actually looking for something. There's a new device that is brand new. We just got this thing, and I was actually kind of looking for some of the specs because I'll be honest, I'd just about forgotten about it. We have not talked about it on this show. I don't even know if we've mentioned it briefly. Maybe we have, maybe we haven't back at SHOT Show time. But this is something that I want to bring up. It's a new Sightmark optic. We'll talk about it a little bit more here in a minute, so I don't want to spill the beans on that. But, yeah, let's talk about night vision for, again, deer hunters. And guys, if y'all listen to this show a lot, there's been times that we have discussed the topic of night vision and thermal just kind of in part of another show about deer hunting. We've had a couple shows dedicated to it. And if you're like, man, these guys do this, all the time, I was kind of thinking we did too. But, we looked back. We're like, well, we did it. We talked about some specific optics last year. And then all the way back like 3 years ago, we had a discussion on it as well. So it's like, you know what? Let's do it again. It's timely. There's things change. And there's a lot of new people that are getting into night vision and thermal. And they really don't even think about the fact that you can use this for deer hunting. I've got a local guy here that I was talking to the other day. He was looking at buying an optic for hog hunting, and I started talking about the advantages of using it deer hunting, and it just blew this guy's mind. He was like, I never thought about it. He's a huge deer hunter. He's like, I never even thought about it. Why didn't I do this years ago? And so anyway, it is exciting. But so night vision, this is one thing where when deer hunters that are kind of new to this hear this, they're like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but it's illegal to shoot deer at night, and I'm not a poacher, and I'm not. No, guys. We are not advocating you do anything illegal, anything that even gets close to touching that boundary. What we're talking about is nowadays, this is the first thing. Number one, these night vision scopes are full color during the daytime, and they're black and white at night. So you can go out during the day, during normal legal shooting hours, and you've got an optic that not only is full color, beautiful, whatever, looks great. You can shoot a deer with it, but you can record that shot. So unlike a traditional daytime scope where, it's beautiful, but you don't get to actually record that and show your buddies or your wife or your friends or your kids, this you can record the whole shot. And it is really, really cool. My daughter has killed several deer, actually a pretty good many deer with some of these Sightmark Wraith, the HD and now the 4Ks. And we've recorded a lot of those. And, I'll admit there's been some times in the moment when I'll say, hey, is it recording? And she goes, I think so. And I'm like, you know what? This is not the time to get over there and monkey with it. If she thinks it is, let's go for it. But it has been a really, really neat thing. She's loved it. And I was explaining this to a guy on the phone the other day that some of us that are older, 40s, 50s, 60s, some of us, it seems weird to look through a scope where you're looking at a video screen during the daylight. So it's not like you're just looking through a normal glass optic, but looking through that video screen sometimes feels a little weird to those of us that are older, because we're not used to that. Now at night, it's fine, but daytime, we're just, it's out of our comfort zone. But the images on these optics, like these Sightmark Wraiths, are just getting better and better and better. And there are some real advantages to using them. And so, again, the recording. I like to be able to sit there in the stand when you shoot that buck and, he stumbles, runs, hits the woods, and you're like, I think I made a good shot. I think I made a good shot. You can go back and watch that right there on some of these scopes, and you can go, oh, yeah, I nailed him. He's got to be dead or what have you. So there are advantages. And then I think the other thing is I know a lot of guys that say, I don't want to carry 2 scopes to the deer stand. I want to go out hunting this evening, but I know there's hogs that come, at 30 minutes after dark, and I can't see them with my daytime scope, and I don't want to have to carry another rifle with a night vision scope or a thermal scope. Well, this is 2 birds with 1 stone. You can hunt in the broad daylight, then it gets night. You're no longer deer hunting, you're hog hunting. Flip the scope over to night vision. And again, I want to say one thing here real quick. There may be some states that do not allow that, okay? I don't know. I don't know every state, every county. Everybody's got some weird game laws. I had somebody tell me the other day that they're not allowed to have a thermal, even a handheld, non-weapons mountable unit. They cannot have that in their possession while they're deer hunting. And so you need to check your local game laws. If it's not legal for you, don't do it. But I know for most of the country, I think it is legal. There's a lot of guys taking advantage of it now.
Yeah. So you're talking about, I'm holding up right now the Sightmark Wraith Mini 4K. This is the optic that I used last year to deer hunt with. And you're talking about your daughter and using it and how easy digital optics are to operate, especially for kids. I like it for the recording capabilities because there's everybody now. I say everybody, that's way over generalizing, but a lot of people now like to record. You see guys in the stands with these big cameras set up, with cell phone stands set up so they can push record before they shoot their rifle. I like video through the optic. I mean, because you're getting a better perspective, because if that deer runs, you can move with the deer and see it on video and a lot different than a stationary camera. So many times you see somebody shoot with a stationary camera and the deer just runs out of the picture and it's like, okay, well, what happened next? But really with the digital optics, it's more than just the recording capabilities. A lot of people like to go out at night during deer season to kind of see what's on their property. And with night vision, if you're out there, and not saying you're out there hunting or anything like Jason said, you may just be holding it in your hand, whatever. But with night vision, with an IR light, you can go out with one of these optics and see deer on your property or see what's running around and be able to see antlers, which is different than what we'll talk about here in a little bit with thermal. But you can, see how many points a buck is, or how big a buck is, a little bit better than any other situation with another optic. But that's why a lot of guys that are calling for deer hunting purposes, they want to know, like, okay, with thermal, how many can you see antlers? And the answer to that, if you don't know, when it comes to thermal, you cannot see antlers if they're not in velvet. So basically, this time of year, it's going to be very hard to see
unless they're just really, really, really close to you. I mean,
yeah, really close,
30,
and
40 yards.
You have a good optic.
Yeah,
but other than that, you're not going to be able to be reliable at being able to tell how many points. And I would not advise it at all. But with night vision, you definitely can, depending on if you're within range and range of the IR light. So that's a lot of people ask about that. There are some, and we can't leave out there, Jason, as you know this too, we get a lot of people that have the ability, because of depredation tags and stuff like that, to hunt at night, to hunt deer at night, because of they've gotten special permission
farming,
from
that sort of thing.
Yeah, because of for depredation, because of deer, eating
damaging
crops or
and,
exactly. So there are guys that legally can hunt deer at night, and they're using a wide variety of different optics. But with night vision, it does give you the ability to see the antlers. But I like it. I like hunting during the day with the digital optic. I've completely switched over. I don't use, traditional daytime optics anymore. And it's not just because I'm in the business. It's because I really, to me, they're a lot easier to sight in. With a great QD mount. You and I are testing optics all the time, so we're always taking stuff on and off our rifle. But with a good QD mount, like you can get with some of these night vision scopes, you can take it on and off, put it back on, not have to re-zero it. There's just so many things that you can do with a digital optic that I feel like, to me personally, unless you're talking about a very high-end daytime optic, I'm not seeing a huge advantage of using a daytime versus a digital daytime optic. So I don't know.
So I want to bring up a couple things. Let's talk about some specific optics, because there's some guys listening to this and saying, okay, this is all great, but I'm new to this. Where do I start and stop? So I'm just going to go down the list real quick, and then I'm going to talk about a brand new optic as well. So if we just start, I'm going to do this quickly. This is not a review of these optics. We've got the Sightmark, and a lot of guys don't know when you're looking for these. It's SIGHTMARK, one word, SIGHT, Sightmark. You can go to our website, Outdoor Legacy Gear, GEAR, outdoorlegacygear.com, and you can see all these optics right there. We've got them on the website, so you can check those out. We'll also have, Hans and I reviewed a lot of these optics on the show, so you can check those out as well. While I'm on this roll, if you see something there and you're like, well, I can't find one of their reviews, hey, just holler at us. We'll be glad to answer your questions, tell you anything about it, and that way, we can explain of, hey, how this unit will work better, whether you're night hunting, deer hunting, whatever. And that goes for anything on the website, thermal, night vision, whatever. Give us a call at 877-350-1818. We'll be glad to help you figure out which one of those is right for you and help you with the purchase. All right, so let's start at the beginning. Sightmark Wraith HD. Now, these units, there's two. They're both $499. There is a 2-power and a 4-power base magnification unit. They're very nice. They're a little bigger, a little heavier. They are HD, so the image quality is good. But if we move up the next step and we go to the Sightmark Wraith 4K Max. Oh, by the way, those two units take AA batteries, just in case people like to know what the batteries. Those are AA batteries, 4 AAs for each scope. We go up next, we go to the Sightmark Wraith 4K Max. This unit is $699, and it is a little bit smaller, and it is a 4K super high resolution. This is basically a 4,000 by 3,000 pixel resolution. And what this means to you is a sharper, crisper, clear image as you zoom up and you use your digital zoom. So you go from this unit's a 3 power. So as you go from 3 to 6 to 9 or incrementally go up through that magnification, you keep a better image because it's a higher resolution. So that's a very big advantage. I understand that's $200 more. It's not in everybody's budget, but if it is, I really think when you get into the 4K units, you get a little better all-around unit because it allows you to zoom more and maintain your image quality. This particular unit has an internal non-removable rechargeable battery. You just plug it in. And I don't remember the battery life offhand on that, Hans. I want to say it's 4, 5, 6 hours. I just don't remember offhand.
I think it was between 5 and 6.
I think so. I know that my daughter has used that more than anything else, killing a lot of deer. I really like it. If you're going to be in the deer stand a long time and you're worried about that battery life, you can always plug it into a little USB battery pack and set that there beside it, and it'll run all night long. I mean, we've done that before and had great luck with it. Moving on quickly, there are 2 new units. I say new; they've been around, I guess, all year. They're the Sightmark Wraith 4K Mini. All right, so we had the 4K Max. These are the minis. That's what Hans just held up there for you, so you've already seen those. They take 2 CR123A batteries. They're $7.99 a piece, and they are a 2-power base mag and a 4-power base mag. And I know you're immediately going, well, I don't know, should I buy the 2 or the 4? That's a situation that really depends on your hunting situation. We'd be glad to help you figure out which one of those is best for you. That's something that there's way too much to just cookie cutter and say you should buy this or you should buy that. So a little bit different situation that we'd help you with there. But those are 2 good options as well. Now all these are weapons mounted rifle scopes. Okay, they're all full color daytime. They're all black and white at night, so you can use them, again, day or night. But I want to tell you about a brand new optic, and if I'd have thought about this morning, I would have grabbed it and thrown it, in my truck when I came to work, and I'd have had it here to record this. But it's called the Sightmark Wraith 4K Monocular. Now, this unit is something that was, teased out to us at SHOT Show this year. We are in, late October when it showed up, so it took a long time to get here, but it is here. I've been playing with it, and basically what it is, and again, I wish I had this thing here to show you. It's a very small, similar to the size of the Mini that Hans held up, but still smaller
it's like
than
in the
that.
same little frame or same form factors.
Exactly. And it is just a monocular. It's $6.99. The unit does not have crosshairs in it, so it's not made to be weapons mounted. Now, I don't get into all this, but you could, in theory, put this, conjunction with like a red dot or a holographic sight, but that's a whole other thing. I don't think many people are going to do that. This unit can be handheld, or it can be helmet mounted. So that's 2 ways that it can be used. And it does have a small built-in IR. What I like about this is I think that for guys who say, all right, listen, I don't want to hunt with one. All right, that's not my thing, but I would like to know if there's deer on my food plot or there's deer at the corn feeder or whatever before I walk in. And I know thermal, we're going to talk about that in just a second. I know thermal would be fantastic for that, but I don't have, whatever, $1,500-$1,800 to get a good thermal handheld, but I would like some idea of knowing what's out there. I think for $6.99, that's where this unit comes in. We have not had a quality digital night vision handheld unit in several years. There used to be a lot. They just slowly got discontinued as thermal became more and more popular. But I think there's a real place for this. And again, this unit, I know a lot of guys are going to use it on a helmet, but I'm just talking about holding it in your hand because it's small, it's lightweight, it's going to let you look out there in that 150-yard range and see, again, what's out there so you're not bumping off that big buck. when you're going into the deer stand. So again, it's brand new. We'll have more information on the show later, but I just wanted to go ahead and bring that up. If you got questions about it, feel free to reach out to us. We have those units in stock. They're $6.99, and I think for deer hunters, that's going to be something that's going to be utilized by a lot of guys.
Okay, so that's night vision discussion. Let's talk about thermal. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but I'm going to say
You're wrong.
yeah, exactly right. Probably so.
Probably so.
I think there's a country song or something that says probably wrong. So they're, as far as the advantages for night vision over thermal, I think there's really two. Price. The price of a night vision optic is considerably less expensive than a thermal. That and being able to ID, like we talked about, antlers, being able to count points on antlers. You have a better specific ID than with thermal, but all the other advantages, detection, distance seeing, you will see things with thermal that you won't see with a night vision. And we talk about this all day long with folks that call in and asking about optics. But man, so let's get to thermal. And I will tell you this, and Jason's the same way. I will not go into a deer stand without a thermal optic. Jason likes to hunt in the evening, and I like to hunt. Well, I don't like to hunt in the morning, but that's when I've been hunting, and that's when I've had the most success. But going into a stand, carrying either, and we're going to talk about some of the good optics, the good thermal optics for taking into the stand with you. But for going in on an early morning, obviously you're walking in, it's still dark. I cannot tell you, Jason, how many times I've gone in to my stand holding a thermal and say, oh, okay, there's deer at my feeder, and let me just wait, because my stands are really close, and they're 30, 40 yards away. I can't get in my stands without bumping deer. So I'll sit back and wait until the deer clear out a little bit before I try to get into a stand. Or people being able to see, walking up to a stand, seeing what's in the area. It helps you not bump deer. But I mean, you would not necessarily see that with anything else. Being able to go into the stand and see something at your feeder and know, okay, well, I got to be extra quiet because there's stuff here, or making sure the wind's right. The advantage that you have with thermal, and like I said, more and more deer hunters are going into the stand in the early mornings with a thermal, some type of thermal, so they don't bump deer. Now, all of you evening hunters, you're like, well, when I go in the evening, it's daylight. I can see. I don't have to worry. I can see if I'm bumping a deer or whatever. True. But for those of you that are shooting a deer and it's right at dusk, and it's going to be dark in 10 or 15 minutes, you shoot a deer, it runs, and you got to track it. I mean, other than dogs, what's better than a thermal optic to take out with you when you're trying to track a deer? And I've gone out, Jason, you and I've had a mutual friend that last year I went out and helped track a deer. And the only reason that I was able to see this deer was because of this thermal, and it ended up being a couple hundred yards away from where it was shot. I would never have seen it without having the ability to have a thermal optic to track, and a lot of people are using them for that very reason. Now Jason's daughter, Dixie Lee, she doesn't have to track deer because they drop right. They don't even go 20.
I'll say this: he's exaggerating about they don't go 20, but knock on wood, she's killed a lot of deer, and they have all not far at all. And
not far at all. Well, East Texas hunters, we're kind of lucky that we don't have, our stands aren't 200 yards away from feeders. Right. I mean, we're pretty close, but at the same time, it does. You got to be really quiet when you're in this deer stands when you're that close. But so tracking with a thermal is one of the best tools that you can have. It's going to make you more successful finding a deer. Like I said, other than dogs, to be able to find a deer that's run off, and you have to try to find it in the woods or in tall brush, it's going to be able to see through a lot of that stuff. Not all of it. You're not going to be able to see through trees or through walls, but you can see through vegetation, light brush. But we, Jason and I included, and many of you deer hunters out, maybe watching this show, never even heard of us, but searched on YouTube for deer hunting thermal, and this came up. More and more people, and more people that I know say, I'm not going into the stand day or night without a thermal optic. So let's. You want to add anything, or we can jump right into the optics?
I've been taking notes over here. If y'all seen me looking down, I'm over here scratching notes. So I want to mention a couple things that everything Hans said dead on. I just want to maybe clear up a couple things and offer some advice. Number one, Hans is talking about tracking. That's huge. It's a big deal. What he's not talking about, and this is a huge myth, and I get this question all the time, and it's, oh, you mean I can walk in the woods and I can see the blood trail with a thermal? The answer to that, generally speaking, in 99.9% of the situations is no, you're not going to see the blood. And here's why. When I explain this, it'll all make sense. These thermal optics are just reading temperatures, okay? So they're seeing the different temperature and things. And blood, if I went and let's just say that, we had an animal and we killed the animal and, whatever, you're gutting it and there's blood running out on the ground. And I look with the thermal right then, yes, I'm going to see it. Why? Because that blood is hot and it's pooling up on the ground. But what happens is that when we're talking about the amount of blood that a deer would normally be losing as it's, on its final jaunt out there as it's dying, or maybe I always say they're dead and running on borrowed time and adrenaline, and the problem is that if he's just bleeding like crazy and it's just a gusher, you don't need thermal. Okay. I mean, anybody can follow one of those blood trails. It's a bloodbath. It's like, okay, yeah, he's right up here. But when you want that is when it's like, there's not a lot of blood or you've lost it. When that blood, any normal amount, I mean, even a spurt, a gush, when it hits the leaves or the ground or the tree limbs or the bark or whatever, we're talking about really a minor amount of blood. And it only takes seconds, at most maybe a minute or two, for that blood to neutralize to the surrounding temperature, to the temperature of whatever it's on.
It's going to cool off quick. Yeah.
Really, really, really quick. So I always tell guys, if you can walk through the woods and you can look at the thermal and you can see this blood splatter, that deer's probably still alive. I mean, because it's happening so fast. And it's really cool. Somebody had a video one time that I saw, and he was in like this junkyard, or maybe like, I don't know, maybe it was around an old farmhouse or something. There's a bunch of junk. And there was this junked, trashed pickup truck. And he shot a coyote, and it was right next to this truck. Again, this was an unusable piece of junk. He shot this thing, and when he did, blood splatter went on the door of that truck, okay? And just stick with me on this. And you're like, oh my gosh, coyote drops, blood splatter with his thermal. And as you're watching it, I'm talking 2 seconds, it just disappears.
Yeah.
It just disappears. It just that quick. It was really, really a cool video. Now, granted, I'm sure it's probably worse because that metal was probably cold and really brought down that temperature. But again, it made the point. So all I'm getting at, I'll quit rambling. You're not going to blood trail with this.
No.
You're going to find the dead animal piled up over there. And the good thing is that even if that animal, let's say, man, we got to leave this thing. We got to leave him a couple hours. I'm not sure about the shot. I want to make sure he's dead. We don't want to push him. That animal, even if he died, right when you shot him out there, in 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, there's still going to be heat. A lot of heat, even if it's in cold weather, because you just think about those guts and those internal organs. I mean, you're talking about, pounds of all that blood and guts in there that will hold that heat for a long time. So you would still be able to find that animal out there. It's not like the animal's going to, come down to the ambient temperature in an hour or two. You would still see it out there glowing. All right, so that's my point on actually blood trailing. Number two, I wanted to say this, and I'll make it quick. Hans has already kind of talked about what you would see out there with thermal. You're not going to see the antlers. We do not. We're not advising you to buy a thermal scope to shoot deer with during the daytime. It's not great. Okay, it's this black and white image. Again, the animal is going to be glowing. They're going to be white hot or black hot or whatever color palette you're using. It looks weird. You can't tell anything about the animal. You can't see those antlers. I think you could make a mistake if you're trying to kill, maybe this older doe. Maybe you could accidentally shoot a buck. I'm telling you, thermal's not what you want for daytime deer hunting. It's really weird. You don't want to use it for that if at all possible. You want to use it for spotting. Like Han said, coming in, going out of the stand, for trailing. And now here's the other thing, and this is something that I think is the biggest advantage. Okay, I get the whole coming in, the going out. I get the trailing, tracking. It's a big deal. But for me, the real advantage of thermal, and I don't care if you're sitting on a field where you can see 1,000 yards, or you're sitting in a deer stand where you can see 40 yards. It is seeing and detecting those deer before they get on top of you. If you've deer hunted, you just look up and you go, oh my gosh, where did that deer come from? I mean, did that thing teleport here? Because I never heard it. Where did he come from? With thermal, I use it where I would normally use binoculars. I still normally take a set of binoculars if I'm hunting on big fields. If I'm on smaller fields, I might not. And, I will take my thermal way before I'll take my Zeiss binoculars. Reason is I want to see these deer coming. And it is a really, really big advantage to know, hey, there's going to be a deer walk out in just a minute. Here he comes. So even in the brush, even in the woods, we're in East Texas. I got some thick, nasty woods. I got stuff that greenbriers and privet hedge and pine saplings and you couldn't crawl through some of this stuff. But you can sit there looking around with a thermal and you can make out that deer easing through there. And you're like, okay, here he comes. Now get ready. And it's a huge advantage for anybody. But hunting with a kid, it's even a bigger, hey, get ready. All right, you ready? Is your scope ready? There's a deer coming. Don't know what it is. And so and I'll tell you this too. You'll also see a whole lot of deer that don't ever actually come in. And then it matches it. You sit there and go, what was that? Was that the big buck? It makes you wonder. I'll tell this real quick. So this has happened many times, but I'm thinking of one specific time. My daughter and I were hunting. We had a corn feeder at about 40 yards, and the wood line was behind that about another 10 yards. We could say about 50 yards. And there was some deer out there and some does. And I, with the thermal, saw this deer coming. And I said, hey, there's something coming in there real slow. Looks like a big body. I'm trying to make it out through the trees. And we sat there and we waited. And that deer, through the thermal, came up to, I'm talking 3 foot inside the tree line, just right there. And I can see it. And I can tell the body size. This is a buck. And I'm like, asking my daughter, do you see it? She's like, I don't see it. And I'm like, you don't see him? He's right there. No, I don't see him. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I grabbed my binoculars because, again, we're talking 50 yards here or less. And I know where he is. I pull the binoculars up and I look right over there at that tree. And I'm like, it's a ghost. He's not there. Yeah. I pull the thermal up. There he is. Binoculars. And I'm talking about, guys, I'm looking at this tree. I can see his half of his body, his neck and his head with the thermal. It took me forever to find this deer. And it's just because there was brush and there was limbs and there was, greenbriers, and he's like a statue just standing there. I can 100, and by the way, the deer never came out. He stood there for 3 or 4 minutes, dead still, slowly turned around, went back the way he came. And he was a nice buck when I finally found him. And it was like one of those, where's Waldo things. The point in that is, we would have never, ever known that deer was there. I mean, there was a 0% chance you'd have found that deer with your naked eye or your binoculars. So there's a lot of advantages. Also, if you're hunting on a big field, you can scan a field. And I mean, I'm serious. 400, 500, 600 yards, depending on your binocular, what quality you can scan that field, 360, 180 degrees, whatever it is, and you can say without a doubt there is or there is not a deer in this field. Now, maybe you're hunting in CRP and there's a buck laying down out there or something. Okay, that's possible. But just a normal grazed pasture, a normal plowed ground, you can just scan that whole thing. And I mean, way out there. It can be at a wood line, in the shade, eating acorns where, it's hard to see, even with your binoculars. You can just scan it as quick as you can. Oh, there is something right over there. There's a deer. So I really, really, really like that. I don't spend all this time with my binoculars searching every nook and cranny and is that a deer in the shadows? Just, again, quick scan and you can find it. Now, I'm going to let Hans talk about maybe a few specific models if he wants to do that. But I'm going to talk about one thing that's really important. And let's say that you're a deer hunter and you're like, guys, I'm not worried about hog hunting or coyote hunting or whatever. I'm a serious deer hunter. I want thermal and I want it for deer hunting. Okay. This is my advice. There's two things. Number one, I would not buy one of these low resolution, what we call sub entry level, 256 resolution units. They're very low resolution. They have some advantages, or I say some advantage. Well, I mean, they offer some benefits, I should say. If you don't have anything, you're really, 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 really close range, 30, 40, 50 yards. They're just not ideal. They're not sensitive. They're not great for trailing. I would just advise against it. So if that's not it, if you say, well, man, my budget is under $1,000. Okay. Probably need to go maybe look at one of these night vision binoculars. Don't know. Call us. We'll talk to you about it. But if you're serious and you're like, I'm willing to spend some money on this because, I spend thousands of dollars on my bow, my rifle, my lease, my side-by-side, corn, everything else. If I was going to buy this for deer hunting, I would buy a 1-power monocular, no magnification. That is what you want when you are in the woods, because you don't want these trees to look bigger than they are. It's going to give you this narrow field of view. It's going to be very difficult if you take a 2.5 or a 3-power monocular in the woods or in the brush or even 40, 50, 60 yards. In this scenario, a 1-power monocular, meaning no magnification. I scan fields 500, 600 yards with a 1-power. That's perfect. I mean, for deer hunting, that's perfectly fine. So that is the perfect unit for a dedicated thermal handheld, for deer hunting. Again, that unit can still be used for hog or coyote hunting for scanning. Most people, when they're doing that, they're going to want a little magnification because they're not a lot of times looking for things that are 20, 30, 40 yards away, especially like trailing or whatever. But I just want to throw that out. You want the lowest magnification you can get, and 1-power is it. That's ideally where you want to be. And if you got to get magnification, just stay as low as you can go on a thermal handheld for what we're talking about. All right.
Yeah,
I've rambled long enough.
We're out of time. No, we're just going to spend a couple minutes. I'm going to go through some of my favorites to break it down by manufacturer. I'll start with iRay. Jason, last deer season, we know we had the iRay Minis, the ML19, which is the 384 resolution. I think that you use that quite a bit, or the 640, which is the MH25.
That's right. I've used both of those a lot in the deer stand. They are tiny. Wish I had mine here. And again, not playing well. Great units.
Yeah. They're both of them are 1 to 4 power. One's a 384 resolution. One's a 640 resolution. 2 options to choose from, but helmet mountable, or you can just hold it in your hand, stick it in your pocket. Very, very small. Well, now this year, which has made a lot of buzz in the industry as far as a multi-purpose unit, is the iRay Micros. You got the RL25, which is a 384 resolution, 2 to 8 power, and the iRay Micro RH25, 640 resolution, 1 to 4 power. Those are helmet mountable. You can use them as a handheld. One of them is a 1 power. The other one's a 2 power, but still, again, if you want something that's multi-use. You can also mount these on a rifle, and they have a reticle that you can turn on and off. So those are pretty good.
Okay, hold on. I just want to say one thing real quick, guys. Yeah, the two that you can mount on the rifle are those new micros you talked about. The minis you can't.
You cannot.
Just so you know, on those price ranges, they started at the bottom at $2,500 and they topped out at $6,000. So he's got something. He's got 4 units there with a $3,500 price range difference between $2,500 and $6,000. So there's a lot of options in there.
With AGM, you've got the Taipan monoculars, and really you're talking about resolution. You want quality thermal optics. Really is going to start at 384 resolution. You got the TM 15 384 for right at $1,300. You got the TM 19 384, which is just under $1,600, and then you've got topping out the TM 25, and that's and that's 384 resolution. Now, those are just binoculars, so those you cannot helmet mount it. Or I've seen people helmet mount it, but I would not recommend that. But you cannot put those on a weapon. It's just a handheld unit. I also, Jason, and a lot of people like the Rattlers. Whether the TS25 would probably be more recommended, because it's the TS25 384. It is the price on it's just under $2,000, but it's a 1.5 power. You can, it is a scope, so you can put it on a rifle if you want to hunt with it at night, but you could use it as a binocular. Great little scope / binocular, which a lot of people use it for. Or you got the the TS35, which is a little bit higher magnification at just over 2 power, and it's a 384 resolution. Envision has the Nox 18, which is probably one of the best handheld binoculars / helmet mountable binoculars / scope that you can get. The Nox 18 is starts at 1 power, goes to 4 power. It very, very high quality, 640 resolution. Price on it's just over $6,000, right around $6,200. Probably one of the best picture images you can get in an optic in that size. Obviously, American made, BAE sensors, BAE core, as everybody's heard about and known about the quality of their optics. But the Nox 18 is fantastic. And even a step up from that, the Nox 35, again, if you want something that you could use as a binocular or as a scope, the Nox 35 is a 2.5 power base magnification. A lot of people want something that they can scan with and hunt with at night. Great optic. We talked about it recently on the Late Night Vision show in one of our favorite multi-purpose thermals, especially out of the Envision line. Price on that's just right around $6,800. So you can tell by the price, those are great optics, but that is what people say all the time, Jason, buy once, cry once. Envision stuff is buy once, cry once. It is an optic that you're going to have for many, many years to come. Definitely worth the money. Pulsar, right now, Pulsar, as far as their binoculars, our favorite, or one of our favorites, Jason, is the Helion XP50 Pro. It's a 2.5 power, a little bit high magnification, but that's the one I carry with me a lot into the field. I do like to have as low a base magnification as I can, but I also like to be able to stretch out and ID an animal pretty far away. So the Helions have always been one of Jason and I's favorites. The Axions, there's a few, now there's 5 different Axions to choose from, whether you're talking about the XM30F, right around $1,500, the XQ35, or the XQ35 LRF, which is $2,000 and $2,500 respectively, and those are 2 power optics. And then you got the XG35s, which are the newer 640 resolution Axions, and those are in the $3,000 to $3,500 price range with the laser rangefinder. Anyway, those are handheld options. The new Talion XQ38, not typically, I had to put it on the list, not ideal as far as size. It's a little bit longer, like the size of a Maglite flashlight, but still a great optic to use if you want to buy something that you can hunt with as well. So 2.5 power, 384 resolution, right around $2,500. You could use it as a binocular, probably not as ideal, but the mergers, a lot of people are sitting in deer stands with the Pulsar merger. That is the thermal binoculars that we talked about recently, 640 resolution, 2.5 power, perfect for sitting in a deer stand, perfect for seeing, like Jason talked about, what's coming in on the brush line, or in a wide open field, that's 800 to 1,000 yards long. Price on it's right around the $5,800-$5,900 range, but these are top notch, top quality, best on the market as far as my opinions when it comes to thermal binoculars, and one of our favorites here on the show. And then Bearing Optics. They have what we really like, and again, these are our picks. This is our opinion, but you got the Hogster Vibe, the 25, which is a 1.5 power. It's a scope small enough you can use it as binocular. It comes with a quick release mount, so you can take it on and off the rifle. Very low base magnification, good for scanning, good for in the brush, but also if you want something that you could use at night as a scope, works very well. So I like both the Hogster Vibe models. Those are in the $22, $23 to $2,600 price range. You got the Hogster 35, which the only difference between the 25 and the 35 really is just the difference in the magnification. The 35 is a 2 to 8 power. The 25 is a 1.5 to 6 power. So small units, use them as binoculars, use them as scopes. And then the Super Yoders. Super Yoders, you've got 3 different models to choose from. Probably the best one for the deer hunter for scanning is the Super Yoder 25. That's a 640 resolution, so it's a higher resolution than the Hogster Vibes. 640 resolution, 12 micron, 1.5 power on the Super Yoder 25. On the Super Yoder 35, it's a 2 to 8 power. And on the Super Yoder 50, which is a fantastic scope, but probably not one for deer hunters, it's a 3 to 12 power. If you're a coyote hunter, you probably asked about that scope. Anyway, that's a lot in a very, very short amount of time.
That was a bunch. I fell asleep twice, woke myself up. Hey,
but with that being said, if you're a deer hunter and you're new to this and you don't know where to sort it out, the reason why I went through that list as quick as I did is because there's a lot of options for you. Whether you want just a true monocular, or if you want a multi-use optic, or you want a scope that you could use as a great a monocular you could use as a scope. There's a lot of choices. Give us a call and we can talk through it.
Yeah, I want to say a couple things real quick as we wrap this up. Guys, I know a lot of y'all heard that list. If you're still listening, you're like, I heard $5,000. I heard $6,000. I heard, listen, that's what you heard, but he also started with some 1300s in there. There's some 1500s in there. So I don't want you just to hear, oh my gosh, I'm not buying $6,000. That's not the intention. I mean, you've got $1,300 and $1,500 options. And if you go, I'm still not spending that, then I would say don't buy thermal. Let's go back to this night vision. Let's go back to this Wraith 4K monocular that's $699. We want to have something for everybody in this range. And and rather, this is my opinion, I'm going to say this, rather than have somebody, see them, buy a thermal, because man, thermal's better. Thermal's where it's at. And they buy the wrong thermal, maybe one of these 256 resolution, or maybe it's just not going to work for them. I would rather see them spend way less money and buy night vision and get the right thing. You don't want to spend, money in this kind of money and it really not get the right thing for what you're trying to do. Again, he mentioned a lot of optics. Some of these are monoculars. Some of them are scopes. A lot of these have a much higher magnification than I would recommend for what I just said. I really said you want 1 power. I get it. You may have to get 1.5. 2 power is a maximum. I have been in the woods with 2 power monoculars, and when you get in close range, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 yards in brush and in woods, it can be nearly useless. So you really have to decide what you're doing. Is this just for deer hunting? Then you need to buy the right optic. If this is something I'm going to try to, use for coyote hunting or hog hunting and this. So anyway, we're here to help you. Hans just said, you would be ill-advised to listen to his little list right there, pick one of those out and go, I'm going to buy this one. No. You need to know way more than that, and you probably need some advice on which one of those to purchase. And so that's what Hans was getting at. Give us a call at Outdoor Legacy. We would love to help you, with that purchase. We would love to be your dealer. And again, we can advise you from our experience, and you tell us what you're doing in your terrain and your situation, and we can figure out what will work best for you and fit your budget. So if you're interested in talking to us, 877-350-1818. And again, we'll be glad to help you with that all the way through the purchase process. Also, guys, we really appreciate y'all coming and listening to this show. You may be brand new here. You may say, man, these guys are long-winded and rambling. We have been told that before, but we want to include as much information as we can for you, and we hope that you have enjoyed it. Feel free to like and subscribe. If you want to see more of our content, you can do that here on YouTube. I know some of y'all may be watching this on Spotify or listening to it on any of the podcast apps. And definitely you can subscribe there so you won't miss another episode if you like what you heard. You can always find Hans if you want to see more of his stuff. He's always out shooting hogs and coyotes and getting video and testing scopes. And he hangs out over on Instagram. You can find him at HANSETX, Hans East Texas. He's also at YouTube, same place, Hans ETX. And you can find his channel there with all of his content of whatever he's been testing and shooting. And, Outdoor Legacy, we're on Facebook and Instagram, YouTube. I'm normally supplying footage to Hans for him to put in his videos. I've been too busy to post my own videos, so I normally will get the video, send it to him, and say, do something with this. Mm-hmm. And so you can see a lot of those videos on his channel as well. Guys, you can also find the Late Night Vision Show at thelatenightvisionshow.com. See all the past episodes. We really appreciate you watching. I hope I didn't leave anything out there, Hans.
No, you did good. So we'll be back next Thursday with episode 235. And it's going to be an awesome show once we decide what it's going to be. But no, we have these shows. I tell you, it's going to be jam-packed between now and the end of the year.
Yes.
We've got best of shows. We've got SHOT Show coming up at the beginning of the year. So it's not that we don't know what we're going to do. We're just trying to figure out how we're going to work all this stuff in. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us again this week. We will see y'all very soon. Y'all stay safe in the fields. Keep making them bacon pancakes.